Hey, it's that time of the year again. School's in session, and I think we can all agree every child deserves a safe, clean, and healthy ride to school. Joining us today is Emily Calandrelli, the Emmy-nominated host of Emily's Wonder Lab on Netflix. Welcome, Emily. First off, what does the science tell us here about school bus emissions?
Right. So the science here is really important. I think a lot of us, if you're like me, you grew up with these old, dirty diesel school buses. I can still remember the smell. And you can remember that thick black smoke that came out of the tailpipe of those buses, right? Well, in that thick black smoke are harmful emissions. There's nitrous oxides, there's particulate matter, and that stuff is bad for the environment, but it's also bad for our kids' lungs, right? That stuff is not good to be breathing in. But the exciting part here is that we now have cleaner alternatives like propane school buses that just for a marginally higher cost, you can drastically reduce those emissions. So propane school buses actually reduce nitrous oxide emissions by 96%, which is really exciting.
Yeah, so propane here, how does that compare to the electric buses? Again, the electric here is a lot better, is that for sure, right?
Right. So when we think of clean vehicles, we often think electric, right? I drive an electric car myself. But the thing here to keep in mind is that electric school buses are about 3 times the cost of propane school buses. And so for me, this is also kind of an environmental justice issue. You shouldn't have to be from a really wealthy district to be able to afford clean air, right? And the other thing to keep in mind with electric is the range. So if you have students who live out in rural areas who are not necessarily centrally located, electric school buses may not be the best solution for you, because as an electric vehicle driver myself, I'm always worried about the range. How long can I drive until I need to stop and juice up before I need to stop and charge my car for like 6 hours at a time? So that's the other thing to keep in mind here. Propane doesn't have that range problem, but you still get the benefit of drastically reducing your emissions.
Okay, and Emily, also too, how can school buses impact the environment? That's so critical nowadays. Yeah,
this environmental, I mean, the reason why the environmental aspect is so important is because you don't just care about the stuff coming out the tailpipe, right? That's the stuff we immediately see. That is the first thing that comes to mind. But the other thing to keep in mind, we were talking about electric, is the electrical grid. Because in some parts around the country, the electrical grid is powered by not super clean sources like coal and natural gas. So that is not necessarily a perfectly clean solution as well. So that's something else to keep in mind. And the reason that I love this environmental aspect of it is because the Environmental Protection Agency is actually offering $5 billion worth of grants to school districts to upgrade their fleet, their school bus fleet, to cleaner vehicles like propane school bus. So if you are someone out there who wants to learn about all this, go to betterourbuses.com.
I was going to ask you that question here, where can we go? But you answered it for me. So, Emily, I appreciate that. Have a great rest of the day. We appreciate it. Thank you very much.